Hi, hello, welcome folks. Welcome to Lit Valentine. It's my pleasure to welcome you all once again on this 1st September. Today I am going to take about some of the important topics. So let's see about that. Before going into the lesson, let's begin our day with some of the interesting idioms, guys. Idioms of the day. Hope you all like it. Today, the first interesting idiom is cheapskate. Cheapskate, meaning someone who hates to spend money. If you want to say that he hates to spend money, instead of using this word, you can use the idiom cheapskate, which means someone who hates to spend money. The next word is oddball, meaning a strange person. If you want to utter that he is a strange person or she is a strange person, instead of using the word the strange person or the meaning related to it, you can use the word oddball, which means strange person. Bite at the cherry, meaning an opportunity to achieve something. If you want to say that he or she is having an opportunity to achieve something, you can demonstrate that in this way. Bite at the cherry. It means an opportunity to achieve something. The next word is to go bananas, meaning to go crazy. If you want to say that I want to go crazy, you want to use the word to go bananas. It means to go crazy. And the final idiom was daredevil, meaning someone who takes unnecessary risk. If you want to utter that he is taking some unnecessary risk, you can use the word daredevil. It means someone who takes unnecessary risk. With this, let's move on to the next slide. So before going into today's topic, let's see what are all the topics we are going to focus on today on this 1st September. So the first one is Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Pindar, Theocritus and Virgil. We are going to focus on all these writers today because all these writers will come under the Greek classicism. So far we are discussing about the Greek classicism and what is Greek classicism and who are the important writers in that period. So before beginning talking about Socrates, I want to say that what are all the topics we had covered so far in the Greek classicism, guys. So far we had discussed about the foundation of modern European literature and Homer and his works, one of the great classical poet and writer. And the next one is Sappho of Lesbos and how the Greek classicism period was. What are all the turmoils were taken place in the period of Greek classicism, and his works like Iliad and Odyssey and the story of Iliad and Odyssey, and the other work of Homer like Batrachomachia or the Battle of Frogs and Mice and the story of the plot, and all these were discussed in my previous videos. And we also talked about Athens, the city of grace, and the next one is city Dionysia and how the tragedy began and who are all the important tragedies like Aeschylus, Euripides and their works like Agamemnon, the story of Agamemnon, the trilogy, Aeschylus trilogy like Orestia. All these were discussed in my previous videos, and we also talked about Socrates and Euripides and the story of Oedipus Rex. All these writers we have discussed so far, guys. If you want to have the deep thinking and deep illustration of the Greek classicism, you can see my previous videos. In all these videos we had discussed about the Greek classicism, and today this is the final video of Greek classicism, and from the next video I am going to talk about Roman classicism. So be careful and be have a thought in your mind what are all the topics we had discussed, and just don't see my videos randomly. Just take notes of it, make use of it, don't memorize anything, have a look of it, read regularly, and have a great day. With this, today's topic is about Socrates. Socrates is actually a famous philosopher. He didn't publish any books, but he used to sit like a beggar and ask the passers-by the questions of intellect. But he pretends like he didn't know anything. He didn't know the answer, which is the best method of teaching. Socrates didn't publish any books, guys. Actually, he will sit under a tree or sit under some places in the city, and he used to ask questions to the passerby. He knows the answer for the question, but he will not reveal that answer. Instead, he will ask the answer to the passers-by. That is his regular way of doing, and this is the best method of teaching. So the Socrates method is the best method of teaching. Why is it so? Because if you ask the child, for example, if you ask the child that what is this and what is that by showing some pictures, they will utter some answer. But if you say that it is not the right answer, even after you knowing the correct answer, they will say that no, this is actually the right answer. What I said is the right answer. So this is what the question answer method, guys. This is what Socrates used in his way of teaching. For example, if I am asking the child that what is the picture I am having in my hand. For example, if I am taking the picture of a cow. Okay. So if I am taking the picture of a cow and asking the child what is it, and the child saying that it is the picture of a cow, but I am denying it. I am saying that no, it is not a picture of the cow, it's actually the picture of the monkey. Immediately the child will say that no, it's actually the picture of a cow. So automatically this will make them to have a register that this is the picture of the cow, this is the picture of the elephant. So like that, it is the question answer method. This is what actually Socrates used while he was teaching. He already knows the answer, what is right and what is wrong, but he made the passers-by to answer the question which he is asking. So this is what actually Socrates did, but he didn't publish any books. It is the Socratic irony method. It is also called as dialectical method. Okay, the question answer method. This question answer method is called Socratic irony method. Also it is called as dialectical method, which is very important in literary theory, and in Marxism both dialectics and dialectical materialism is there, guys. It is very important because this Socratic ironic method is also called as dialectical method, which is very important in literary theory, which was used by Socrates. In Marxism we have both dialectics and as well as dialectical materialism. Okay, so keep that in mind. With this, let's move on to the next slide. Socrates was known by us through Plato because Socrates did not wrote anything. As I said you before, Socrates didn't publish any books, but we all know about him. How we know about him? Because it was Plato. Through Plato, we came to know about Socrates. Plato and the other one was there. They are the students of Socrates. Actually, Plato composed all the books in the form of dialogues. In his books, Socrates was a character. He used to ask people the questions. Okay, so this Plato and the other one was there. They are students of Socrates, and Plato used to compose all the books in the form of dialogues. Okay. So here Plato used to compose all the books in the form of dialogues. In his books, Socrates was a character. He used to ask the people the questions. So through the works of Plato, we all came to know about Socrates. The next slide was Plato's most important work was the Republic, guys. Keep that in mind. Plato's most important work was the Republic. He talks about poetry in it. Okay. What is the content of Republic means? In Republic, he talks about poetry. In his work Ion, he talks about poetry. Okay. In his work Ion too, he talks about poetry. His most famous work was Republic. In that, he talks about poetry, and also in the work of Ion, he talks about poetry. Ion is actually a rhapsody, guys. What is actually the rhapsody? It means a reciter or a singer who sings the poems of Homer. Here, Homer will compose his Iliad and Odyssey. Other people will hear and start singing it. The people who sings great writers' compositions are called as rhapsodies. For example, if I am writing some work and you guys are listening that and you are imitating the same work by singing or by writing, so that is called a rhapsody. So here rhapsody, Ion is actually a rhapsody because here the recitations of Homer were recited. So this is what rhapsody means. So Ion is a work of Plato. It is the work of rhapsody. Okay. So here I had demonstrated what is actually a rhapsody means. So keep that in mind. Don't forget it. The next one is Plato's Phaedrus. Phaedrus is also a work of Plato which is very important in that he talks about writing and speech. These writing and speech are very important in structuralism and as well as in post-structuralism. Okay. Plato's Phaedrus is a very important work in that he talks about writing and speech. Both are very important in structuralism and post-structuralism. The next one is Plato was a student of Socrates. Okay. Then if you take Plato, Plato started a school called Academy. In that Aristotle was a student. Okay. Plato started a school called Academy. In that Aristotle was a student. In Republic, we all know that Plato talks about poetry and his work Ion also he talked about poetry. Ion is actually a rhapsody. Keep that in mind. Don't forget it. In Republic, Plato also talks about justice. Okay. In Republic, he talks about two things. One is poetry, the other one is Republic. Sorry, one is poetry, the other one is justice. Okay. Please don't forget. Don't have any confusion, guys. Once again, I will repeat that. Plato's important work was Ion, Republic, and Phaedrus. In Ion is actually a rhapsody work. Okay. Ion is actually a rhapsody work, and in Republic and in Ion, in both these works, Plato discussed about poetry, and in Republic, he not only discussed about poetry, instead he also discussed about justice. He says that an ideal just republic, commonwealth or country, and he also states that when a country is just, the individuals is just. When the individuals is just, only then the country are just. So it is mutually complementary. Okay. This is the important statement which he had talked about Republic in actually in Republic he talked about all these statements. So keep that in mind while you are asking questions about Plato's Republic. Keep all these statements in your mind what he had discussed. So, okay. So keep that in mind. What are all the important topics Plato had written and in the topics what he had discussed. So keep all these things in your mind. Make a note of it. The next thing is Plato lived at the time where great poetry came into an end. He also said that better we don't have poetry in the commonwealth because there are chances that poetry will corrupt the people. In book 3 and 10, that is in Republic in book 3 and 10, he suggests that poetry or poets is not needed in the commonwealth. In book 10, he also states that poets should be banished from the commonwealth. These are some of the important statements, guys, which is said by Plato. Okay, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I am repeating it because these are very, very important questions. Usually, these sort of questions will ask in the NET exams. The next important philosopher was Aristotle. He praised poetry and showed that poetry is great and talks about mimetic poetry in Poetics. Aristotle's famous work was Poetics. He praised poetry there and showed that poetry is great and talks about mimetic poetry. Mimesis means imitation that Plato already talked. Plato also talked about this imitation and even Aristotle also talked about it. Aristotle states that every art is imitation and the greatest mimetic art is tragedy. He talks about tragedy in Poetics. In Poetics, it talks about tragedy, its constituent elements, the tragic hero, and he also portrayed Oedipus Rex as the ideal hero of the tragedy. Both Plato and Aristotle laid the foundation of literary criticism. Please be remember with that. Both Plato and Aristotle laid the foundation of literary criticism. Plato was the student of Socrates and Aristotle was the student of Plato. Both the Plato and Aristotle laid the foundation of literary criticism, and there were also other few writers in the Greek period. They are Pindar, who wrote lyrical poetry called odes. Pindaric odes are formal encomiastic words, which means in praise of somebody or something. Here we are talking about Plato and Aristotle, who laid the foundation of literary criticism. There were also other few writers in the Greek period. They are Pindar, who wrote lyrical poetry which is called as words. What is actually Pindaric words? Pindaric words are formal encomiastic words, which means in praise of somebody or something. In the Roman classical period, all the Greek classical compositions were imitated. Pindaric words were imitated by Horace in the Roman classical period, and Horatian words came into being. Two types of words were there, Pindaric words and Horatian words. Pindaric words was written by Pindar in the Greek period, and in the Roman classical period all the Greek classical compositions were imitated, and Pindaric words were imitated by Horace, who was the great writer in the Roman classical period, and Horatian words came into being. If you take the Greek classical period, it is a time of brilliance which laid the foundation of all the major disciplines, and it led to Roman classicism. It also gave importance to values and rules, and it became a mode of writing in both arts and literature. Classicism flourished in the Renaissance period, the neoclassical period, in various ways. If you take classicism, it flourished in the Renaissance period and as well as in the neoclassical period. And in the end of the 19th century, in Europe emerged another movement called Romanticism, which is opposite of classicism. So in the 19th century in Europe emerged another movement called Romanticism, which is the opposite of classicism. Classicism is about order, rules and morality. It has certain genres like epic, tragedy, pastoral poetry. In Greek classical period, there was a father of pastoral poetry. Who is it? It is Theocritus. Theocritus is called as the father of pastoral poetry. Theocritus was later imitated and inspired by the Roman master Virgil. Both these Theocritus and Virgil are considered the fathers of pastoral poetry. Theocritus was later imitated and inspired by the Roman master Virgil. Both Theocritus and Virgil are considered as the fathers of pastoral poetry. With this, we came to the end of the session, guys. Today we are completing the Greek classicism. So please read all my previous videos which all discussed about the Greek classicism. I had described everything. I am not only giving the Greek classicism and what are all the turmoils had taken place. I also talked about the important writers who had lived during the time of Greek classicism in a very detailed manner. So with this we came to the end of the session, and from the next episode I will meet you with the new topic, that is Roman classicism. So please be ready and have a great day, guys. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.